Hello again, everybody. American 2 Kiwi, and here I am going into the Palms to pick up my first round of medications, which I will explain as I go along, actually. So here we are at the entrance to the Palms Mall. There's a lot of No My Heidi My is like welcome and Tero Maori. This is what the inside of my local mall looks like. That's like a big arcade, that's a coffee shop, and it's after work, and kids are on spring break, so it's a bit busy in here. And I'm going to pick up some eczema cream because I have had a breakout since moving here. A lot of people move here and they don't notice any kind of skin conditions, breakouts. The other half the people have all the breakouts, and I was lucky enough to be that category. So I'm walking through the mall now to go to Chemist Warehouse, which is, well, you'll see. So here we are approaching Chemist Warehouse, and I'll show you around the inside when we get there. So basically take Walgreens and put them on steroids. There's 12 aisles of just meds, supplements, skin care, everything. Alright, so got my prescription, and now we are on our way out. Alright, so now that we're out of the mall, medications are very easy in New Zealand. You show up, tell them what was ordered for you, and as long as it's in stock, they pull it off the shelf, put it in a paper bag, and that's it. They just ask if you've used the medication before, and if the answer is yes, which for me it is, then they just, they don't even waste paper printing off all those medication fact side effect sheets like you do in America. They just give you your meds and you're off. How cool is that? Very few meds you actually need to pay money for here. So obviously in New Zealand, shopping carts are called trolleys, and you'll see there on the sign that 120 minutes, and I would say that's a pretty typical allotment for like parking center at a shopping center. Some places you'll go, there'll be 60 minutes. Movie theaters, you might get 240. Bigger complexes, you might get 180 for like real big shopping complexes. But that's a pretty standard time to be allowed to park here in most malls in New Zealand. Obviously, if you're in the city, it might be closer to like a half hour, or you have to pay to park, but there's almost always side streets that you can go on. All right, now we're back in the car and we're hitting the road. I will talk to you a little bit about the state of medical affairs of New Zealand, if you will. So this will also be pertinent information if you are planning on moving here, which is obviously what I am doing. Fortunately, the homesickness has gone away, for those of you that have watched my first couple videos, and that's just because obviously I've been busy at work pretty much since I started, which has obviously been a good thing for my mental health. I'm not somebody who's very good at sitting still very long. So that being said, I am not going to shamelessly plug BetterHelp therapy or anything like that, but I do take medications for my mood, and I'm very open about that, obviously. And there are some nuances, some idiosyncrasies to getting medications filled down here. Now, if you are on a very costly medication and you are applying for a visa, you might have to switch to a less costly medication to get approved. Reason being, economics. Since the government healthcare system in New Zealand is subsidized, you obviously aren't going to get away with getting everything for free. That being said, with private sector services or ACC, which is like their version of Medicare almost, it's going to be a little bit different, where it might take longer to get your resources approved. It might take longer to get your medication approved, and the person doing the work might have a little bit more paperwork to do, which is why it takes a little bit longer. But government healthcare is subsidized and available to anybody in New Zealand, regardless of your status. Emergency care is available for free for anybody who's touristy. And if you're on any kind of visa whatsoever, you can access any level of care here. So nurses' appointments are typically $30 to $35 if you're seeing a nurse. If you're seeing a medical provider or a doctor, typically you're going to fork out somewhere closer to $60. A specialist, you might pay $70 or $80. But there's also voucher programs if you have an emergency need that you can get triaged and assessed. They have all your standard like helplines and stuff. If it's a medically related question and somebody is getting paid for their time to help you, that might cost you a few dollars to get some medical advice. There are plenty of free resources and forums that doctors and nurses in New Zealand have put out, and that includes on medication. So aside from what I'm telling you now, if there's any other information you want to know about New Zealand's healthcare system, then there will be opportunities. Maybe eventually I'll go into a bit more of what I do for work, and I'll talk about it from that perspective. But I guess to give you a more accurate representation of what it's like being an American moving to New Zealand to then access their healthcare system, I will just tell you a little story about how that's been going for me so far. With the healthcare system down here in New Zealand, you can always get pointed in the right direction pretty easily if you get turned around. Everyone's very friendly and helpful, and they are eager to help. If you need medical advice after your doctor's appointment, you might have to spend a couple extra dollars on that, but it's not a big deal. There are plenty of forums and resources with plenty of nurses available 24/7. The most basic medical questions you can get figured out. And if the person you're getting advice for is under the age of 14, it is free. Obviously, you can't have everything be free because the workers need to get paid for their time. That wouldn't be fair to the people who are taking these calls and working to expect them to work for free. So to walk you through the process of what it was like doing everything, I started by calling my local practice in Christchurch City Centre, and at the end of the week I had my initial appointment. Enrolling with a GP is free, and that means that you're covered by the practice. You give all your records to the practice. Everything you need is in one spot, and that's just going to be really helpful if you need referred to other services for anything whatsoever. So obviously it's very recommended that you go off and do that as soon as you can if you're coming to New Zealand. So that appointment was last Friday. Today's Tuesday. I paid $60 for my doctor for a half hour with him, and then for my nurse for 14-ish minutes with her, I paid $35. And those are pretty standard fees down here in New Zealand. Once again, you can't expect the workers to work for free, and that is the only part of the healthcare scheme down here that isn't subsidized. Obviously, if there's emergency care, you're on a visa, you don't have money, etc., there are waiver programs, and they will still find a way to get you seen. So you don't have to worry about that. But at the end of the day, I was hooked up with my medications, which are free down here because of my taxes that we'll be paying for them once I start getting paid this upcoming Tuesday. Yeah, I know, a lot of jobs pay on Tuesdays down here. It's kind of weird. And I was hooked up with a specialist for my skin, a specialist for my wrist, and a specialist for health practitioner, because obviously I left a lot behind to move down here. So I'm just going to go get checked out by them and tell them my woes and stressors, maybe get referred onwards for psychology is private, so you have to pay for that. But a counselor, I might be able to go see like an interventional counselor, and 5 sessions of that will be covered. So there's a couple of different options here that even if it isn't covered by the healthcare scheme, it is still very cheap, very discounted, especially compared to America. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, I guess, in a nutshell. So yeah,
catch y'all on the next adventure.